In this country, you can be arrested for going out on the street without wearing underwear. Without underwear. And I'm not joking, okay? Welcome to Thailand, where 3 people on a motorcycle is normal, but driving without a shirt can get you fined. Stepped on money? That's a serious problem. It has the king's face on it, and here that's no joke. Want to buy alcoholic drinks? Only at specific times. Missed the time? Too bad for you. The supermarket fridge is literally locked with a padlock. And while you're trying to figure out the laws, here come the scams. The tuk-tuk scam, the ping-pong show scam, the broken motorcycle scam, the turned-off taximeter scam, and extra charges on your bill. You know, Thailand is a paradise, but it's a paradise for those who are smart and alert. I arrived in Thailand with that worldwide myth in my head. Everything here is cheap. You know when a phrase is repeated so many times it becomes like a religion? So I landed thinking my wallet was going to get superpowers, like I'd live like a king spending pocket change. Then Thailand looked at me and replied, "Cheap? It depends. Are you a local or do you look like a tourist who just left the airport?" Because here there's an invisible science. The exact same item can cost the standard everyday price or the welcome to the human theme park price. And I learned this in the most educational way possible, by getting hit in the wallet. On the very first day, I understood the pattern. Thailand is cheap when you live like a Thai. When you switch to tourist mode, the system activates automatically. Congratulations, you've unlocked the premium plan. And then comes the first cultural lesson. Haggling isn't optional, it's the national sport. But I don't have that software installed. For me, negotiating price is like having a relationship talk. You know you're going to waste energy and come out emotionally drained. Not here. You want to pay less, the seller wants to charge more, and both pretend it's just a casual conversation, while actually engaging in a silent psychological battle. And in the middle of all this, I started to notice something else. Thailand seems relaxed, chaotic, free, but in practice, it's one of the places with the most invisible rules I've ever seen. For example, did you know that stepping on money here can land you in jail? It's not an exaggeration, because the bill has the king's face on it, and disrespecting his image is a serious crime. Actually, it's impossible to forget that this is a monarchy. The presence of the king is felt everywhere, on billboards, in shops, on buildings, and in giant portraits, looking at you as if he's auditing your trip. And there's a basic rule that everyone learns quickly. Never speak badly about the king, not even as a joke. Then you think, okay, cultural respect. But the surprises keep coming. I found out that, theoretically, you're not allowed to go out on the street without underwear. Yes, going out without panties or underwear can actually become a legal issue. Now comes the truly wonderful part of Thai logic. Driving without a shirt can actually get you fined, but seeing 3 people, or sometimes even 4, balanced on a motorcycle is totally normal. It is simply a case of different cultural priorities. And just when you think you've figured out the system, you try to buy beer at the wrong time. Because here, alcoholic beverages can only be sold at specific times, from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m., and then from 5 p.m. until midnight. Outside of those hours, the fridge is locked, sometimes with a padlock, and even a little bell to alert if someone tries to open it. It's like a bar run by your religious grandmother. And on certain days, religious holidays, elections, or the king's birthday, they simply don't sell alcohol. That's it, not even if you insist. That's when it hit me. Thailand might seem chaotic, but it actually runs on very strict cultural rules that tourists only discover once they're already playing the game. While I was trying to make sense of all this, something else started popping up everywhere, like the unavoidable ads of modern tourism. Cannabis shops. Seriously, it's one shop after another. It seems like there are more of these than 7-Elevens. And here, 7-Eleven basically works like the Ministry of National Survival. You walk a few meters and find the full package for the modern tourist. Cannabis, massage, bar, restaurant, shopping, repeat. And then you realize something important. Thailand isn't just a place. It's a perfectly trained system designed to fulfill the visitor's desires. And even so, I was enjoying it, because the country has its own identity. It doesn't feel like a copy of anywhere else. It has its own food, its own chaos, its own pride. But then comes the part that ruins the Instagram filter. On the same street where you see neon lights, amazing food, and smiling people, you also see poverty right in front of you. Homeless people, people with disabilities, people singing for coins. It's not the distant poverty you see in documentaries. It's right next to you while you decide which skewer to eat. And it was in this contrast between, this place is amazing, And this place is heavy that I thought, if during the day it's already this mix of paradise and reality, what happens when night falls? Because everyone calls this the land of smiles. But I started to realize that some smiles here come with a price. And there's an unwritten rule that no one tells you before you arrive. In Thailand, a tourist is not a guest, you know? You're basically a walking slot machine. There is a specific moment in every single trip when you suddenly realize you've stopped being a traveler and have turned into a credit card on legs. In Thailand, that realization comes fast. Really, really fast. At first, you walk around all happy, looking at buildings, temples, food, smiling at everyone, thinking you're having a deep cultural exchange until you realize that the smile you get back doesn't mean friendship. It means, okay, this one pays in dollars. Here you learn a word without anyone needing to explain it. Farang. Farang means foreigner, or to put it more clearly, you. And along with the title comes an automatic bonus, the Farang price. Here is how it works. The very same cold coconut costs 40 baht for a local, but 80 for you. It is the same fruit, from the same vendor, under the same scorching sun overhead. What is the only difference? You look like someone who searched for cheap Thailand on YouTube. At first I thought, oh, that's normal, it's tourism. Then I realized it wasn't an exception. It was practically a national sport. Here, they size you up in 3 seconds. Do you look lost? You pay more. Do you speak English? You pay more. Did you smile politely? There you go, jackpot. And that's where the tuk-tuk comes in. The tuk-tuk is sold as an authentic cultural experience. In practice, sometimes it's a financial roller coaster without a seatbelt. You get in thinking you're in a National Geographic documentary and leave realizing you paid more than for a car with air conditioning, a comfortable seat, and emotional stability. But the most curious part? It doesn't feel like an aggressive scam because they do all of this with a smile. It's almost a psychological game. You try to negotiate for a lower price. The driver tries to earn a bit more. And both of you pretend it's just a casual conversation. But that's when I realized something. Thailand doesn't deceive you. It just tests the level of your innocence. For example, the classic closed temple. You're on your way to visit a famous temple, feeling excited and spiritual, almost as if you're becoming a monk for 5 minutes. Then a friendly guy shows up telling you it's closed today. Coincidentally, he claims he knows a much better tour and can take you there right now. Spoiler alert, the temple is open. What's actually closed at that moment is your critical thinking. And when night falls, the stakes get higher. There's always someone offering free entry just to take a quick look at some show. And you think, what could go wrong? Short answer, the bill. You go in out of curiosity and find out that getting out costs as much as financing a car in Brazil. The famous ping pong show. They put the ball up there, if you know what I mean, and shoot at balloons. That's some strong lady parts, huh? It's not entertainment, it's forced financial education. And the tests keep coming. Thinking of renting a scooter? Perfect. Freedom, wind in your face, true traveler vibes. Then you return the scooter in perfect condition and magically a scratch appears that didn't even exist when the universe was created. Welcome to the broken scooter scam. Basic rule here. Take photos, videos, and never leave your passport as collateral, because handing over your passport is like handing your soul to the devil. There are classic scams in transportation too, you know? You get in the taxi and the driver says, "Meter's broken." It is funny how it only seems to break when you get in, right? The best advice I can give you is this: never ride without the meter, unless you want to pay a lot more. The solution is simple. Demand the meter or call Grab, which is like Uber here, where at least the shock comes before the ride, because they drive like maniacs. But the real psychological scam happens when you've already let your guard down. You sit down at a bar, loud music, perfect atmosphere, thinking you've finally figured out the country. The bill arrives and on it are fees you've never seen in your life. A fee for this, a service charge for that, maybe even cosmic energy. Nothing outrageous on its own, but together enough to turn a cheap night into a deep financial reflection. And then you start to notice something interesting. Thailand doesn't hide the game. It just assumes you'll learn by taking emotional and financial hits. There's a moment in Bangkok when the city simply changes its soul. It's not when it gets dark, it's a few minutes before that. The sky is still blue, but the neon lights start turning on one by one, as if someone had pressed an invisible button saying, "Okay, tourists, now it's your turn." By day, Bangkok feels like survival. Motorbikes whizzing past just 2 centimeters from your leg, the smell of frying food on every corner, golden temples shining in the midst of chaos. But at night, the city turns into a stage. And I realized this at the exact moment I entered Sukhumvit. At first, it just seems like a busy street. People walking, cars passing by, nothing special. Then you walk another 20 meters and start to notice the details. Neon lights flashing non-stop, different music coming from every door, someone trying to start a conversation every 5 steps. Hey, my friend, massage? Good price. And the curious thing is that no one explains anything to you. You just get it. It's like entering a game without a tutorial. There are massages available everywhere, but not quite the kind you might expect to find after walking all day. Here there's a silent code. If the woman is older, simple clothes, calm demeanor, it's a traditional massage. If she's too young, perfect makeup, a practiced smile, and sniper-level eye contact. Well, let's just say the package might come with optional upgrades. At first you laugh. Then you kind of don't know where to look. Tourists walk by pretending to act natural. Couples walk quickly. Groups of friends laugh a little too loudly. That kind of laugh from someone who's uncomfortable but doesn't want to admit it. And then I realize something else. Everyone says they're just here to look. That's a lie. Everyone comes to test just how far their own curiosity will go. The more you walk along these paths, the more the street feels like a vibrant living theater. Original watches are being sold in hushed, secretive tones, while promoters are promising truly unmissable shows, and local bars are competing to see which loud music can get stuck in your head the most. And in the middle of all this, I had the brilliant idea to grab my camera and start filming. Classic rookie mistake. 2 girls immediately started to complain. One gestured for me to lower it. The other said something in Thai that was clearly not a compliment. There, I learned an important rule about nightlife in Bangkok. Anything can happen, but not everything can be recorded, because despite the appearance of total freedom, there's an invisible line there, and you can feel it when you get close to it. I kept walking, and that's when I started to notice something that nobody shows in tourist videos. The number of men alone, older men, walking slowly, watching in silence, no partying, no excitement, just walking, as if they were looking for something that even they don't really know what it is. The vibe changes when you notice that. Suddenly, it stops seeming like just fun. It starts to feel like work. Negotiations happening on every corner, quick conversations, prices being agreed on like someone ordering food at a restaurant. At one point, out of pure curiosity and maybe a lack of social survival instinct, I asked how much it cost to go out. A direct answer, 2,000 baht. I laughed, chatted a bit, and it dropped to 1,500 in seconds. Way too fast. Fast enough for me to realize that this wasn't about charm, connection, or chemistry. It was about closing another client before the next song started, and that's when a strange discomfort hit me. Up until then, everything seemed exotic, curious, almost fun. But in that moment, it became clear. This wasn't a show, it was an industry. And the craziest part? Bangkok at night doesn't feel dangerous. In fact, it's surprisingly safe. The risk isn't someone attacking you. The risk is slowly realizing that fun, necessity, and money are so intertwined there that it's impossible to separate one from the other. When I left the street, the neon lights were still reflecting on the wet asphalt. The music was still blaring behind me. Someone was still shouting, "Massage!" to another newly arrived tourist. And as I walked back, a nagging question started to really bother me. Who are the people behind this showcase? Because up until now, I had only seen the show, and I was finally about to discover the real stories behind it. After a few hours walking through the neon-lit streets, something curious happens. You stop seeing people and start seeing characters. The girl who calls you at the bar door, the guy handing out flyers, the drunk tourist laughing too loudly, the security guard standing still like a statue. Everything becomes part of the scenery, until suddenly someone actually starts a real conversation with you and your mental script breaks. That's what happened when I finally sat down to talk with a ladyboy away from the street noise. No loud music, no flashing lights, and no performance, just a regular person feeling tired after another long night of work. And then comes the very first shock. Thailand seems extremely open to trans people. You see ladyboys working in shops, airports, restaurants, as tour guides. Everything seems natural, but when you start hearing the stories, you realize that reality is more complicated. One of them explained something to me that stuck in my mind. Here, we're not fully accepted, we're tolerated. And that sentence changes everything, because from the outside it looks like inclusion. On the inside, there are still invisible boundaries. Many families do not accept the transition. Many people have to leave home at a very young age, while others simply can't get a formal job. So what options are left? The night. It's not because everyone wants to be there, but because the pay there is significantly better than almost any other available option. One of them told me she used to work at a 7-Eleven. Low salary, long hours, and no prospects for the future. In the nightlife industry, on a good night, she could make the equivalent of several days of regular work. It's not glamour, it's math. Another thing that no one notices as a tourist, many people there hide their profession from their own families. Some people might say they work at a bar, while others say they're receptionists, because going home with the truth could mean losing absolutely everything. And then you start to notice the small details that used to go unnoticed. The constant smile isn't just typical Thai friendliness, it's a necessary survival tool. The light conversation isn't just natural flirting, it's emotional labor. And the more you listen, the more you realize that the entire street operates as a parallel economy, an industry built over decades, first by poverty at the beginning of the 20th century, then by the presence of foreign soldiers during wars, and later by international tourism, which discovered that Bangkok offered something few places could provide so easily: accessible fantasy. But there's another, even more complex layer. Buddhism, which is dominant in the country, carries a less rigid view of gender identity than many Western cultures. The idea of masculine and feminine duality coexisting helps explain why the presence of trans people is so visible here. But visibility does not mean equality. And there, sitting and listening to stories while the movement continued outside, it became impossible to ignore a strange feeling. Thailand sells the world the image of the land of smiles, but some of those smiles come at too high a price for those who have to keep them up every night. One of the questions I asked was simple: "Are you happy?" She thought for a few seconds before answering. It wasn't a sad or a happy answer, it was an honest one. "I just want a normal life." And maybe that was the heaviest sentence of the whole night, because at that moment it became clear that, behind the lights, the tourist curiosity, and the exaggerated stories on the internet, there are people trying to do exactly the same thing as everyone else, to belong somewhere. And it was then that I realized that Bangkok is not just a city of excesses, it is a city of contrasts. And the more you look beyond the spectacle, the harder it becomes to see it as just entertainment. After a few days in Bangkok, something strange happens. You stop trying to understand the country and start to understand your role within it. Because at the beginning of the trip, you think you are exploring Thailand. But little by little you realize Thailand is also exploring you. And it's not a scam, it's not malice, it's the system. Here, tourism is not just an economic activity, it's almost an entire ecosystem operating around the visitor. Every smile has a purpose, every invitation is calculated. Every tourist street is a perfectly tuned machine designed to turn curiosity into money. And then you understand the famous Farang price. Farang means foreigner, but in practice it means something else: an adaptable price. A coconut costs 40 baht for a local, 80 for you. The fare changes depending on how you look. The same product shows up more expensive just because you stop to look at it. At first it feels unfair. Then you slowly realize it is part of the game. Millions of people there live directly or indirectly from the money that comes from outside. While you're on vacation, someone is working twice as hard to make that vacation possible. And this starts to show up in the details. Waiters working through the night, drivers going non-stop, people sleeping in tiny rooms behind the brightly lit bars. The city never shuts down. A girl I met said something simple, almost emotionless: "If I had another option, maybe I would choose differently." It wasn't sad, it wasn't dramatic. It was just factual. And maybe that's what confuses visitors to Bangkok the most. Nothing there is completely fake. Paradise really does exist. The food is amazing, the energy is real, the people are kind. It's just that there are two Thailands happening at the same time. One where someone is living the best trip of their life, and another where someone is working to make that trip possible. And the two walk side by side, on the same sidewalk. On the last night, I walked back to the hotel alone. No camera, no rush, just observing. The neon reflected on the wet ground after a quick rain. A group of tourists laughed loudly as they crossed the street. A masseuse yawned, leaning against the door, waiting for the next client. A vendor was taking down his stall while the music still played in the background. The city kept going, even when the fun was already over for me. And that's when it hit me. Bangkok doesn't try to hide anything. It shows everything all the time, but each person sees the version they want to take home. Some will remember the parties, others the beaches, and others the amusing scams they encountered. I'll remember the contrast, because maybe the biggest shock in Thailand isn't discovering that paradise has a harsh side, but realizing how much we collectively choose not to look at it while we're happy. I passed by the last 7-Eleven before the hotel. Bright white light, freezing air conditioning, a strange silence after the noise of the street. I grabbed a bottle of water, paid, and when I left, the neon was still flashing outside as if the night would never end. And at that moment, I understood. Thailand doesn't sell a lie. It sells exactly what the visitor came to buy, the fantasy. The difference is that after you see behind the scenes, it's impossible to pretend you didn't. But if you've made it this far, leave a comment. Bangkok, just so I can get to know the survivors who made it to the end a little better. Oh, and if you want to know more about Thailand, check out this video that's showing up on the screen now. Thanks, and see you next time.